Joining us right now is Ensema Global founder and president and former Deputy Assistant Treasury Secretary under Reagan. David Malpass is with us. He's also a senior economic advisor to the Trump campaign. David, good to see you.
Hi, Maria.
So we were all talking about this speech yesterday that Trump gave on trade yesterday. And, you know, he basically said he wants to undo all the deals. Wants to undo, you know, the deal with China, $500 billion deficit there. He wants to undo NAFTA. He wants to undo any deal that we have with South Korea. Is this just too much disruption right now? Why redo every deal right now? Do we need that much disruption?
I think we need a lot of disruption. Growth has been really slow. Wages have been falling, not rising. We've got to have a real change. And on trade, it's not so much undoing the deals as improving the deals. The deals that were made are these big multilateral deals. And if you looked into the details of how they were negotiated, you wouldn't like them either. And so this is an opportunity, a big opportunity, I think, for growth, higher wages, more concentration on jobs in the U.S., rather than globalism. We've been focused on this globalism for a lot of years, and it's just not working.
So is free trade a positive for the economy then? I mean, you worked under Reagan. You've been looking at trade as a component of economic growth for a long time.
Right. Of course free trade is a positive, and commerce is a positive. Companies trade with each other. But what we've gotten into is managed trade where the governments run it. So you have the U.S. government has this giant industry. You have to be inside Washington to understand how I'll say corrupt, how intensively lobbied these trade deals are. And that ends up biasing the terms. That's what he was saying about the Chamber of Commerce being too much on the inside.
But you're expressing it in a way that would make conservatives more comfortable with this. That he doesn't.
Very well said.
Right. That I get what you're saying in the way that you're explaining it, but he's a little more.
But think of the core point Trump is making, that we haven't been growing, wages aren't rising, so there's something wrong now, and we've got to move to a new system that's going to be better for the U.S., I think better for the world.
Yeah, and I think the way that you're describing it is really comforting, but I think the American people want to hear about the disruption. So when you look at the resonance of a speech like he gave yesterday, it's like, I'm going to shake things up, make things go different. And so I think with them, that resonates. In an audience like we have here, I think we need to hear more like what you're talking about.
I think that the candidate needs to give more historical context. And so from 1945 to today, what the State Department basically did in conjunction with Treasury is they made uneven trade deals to help prop up and support developing nations. We don't call those countries third world anymore for a reason. We slanted the table against ourselves to help them rise and create their middle classes. And I think what Donald Trump is now saying is that that's enough of that now. We have to go from a unbalanced system to a fair free trade system. You see those words? And I think he has to explain that to the American people the way David is explaining.
Yeah, well said, yeah.
Think of the program as a whole. So you've got tax cuts. Hillary Clinton has a tax increase.
That's right.
So how's that going to work from a growth standpoint or even from a national debt standpoint? You can't address the fiscal deficit if you're not growing. And so that's a starting point. And the regulatory policies are huge. You know, Trump has made this observation that when he talks with people around the country and with businesses, they want to talk, they're even more incensed by the regulatory overreach out of Washington than by the high tax rates. So that's all on the table to make it better.
One thing I noticed in that trade speech, though, is that he didn't talk about a 45% tariff on imported Chinese goods, and he didn't talk about essentially going after companies that send jobs to Mexico. And so it actually, even though it was unnerving to some conservatives about how he talks about renegotiating all these trade deals, it did back away from his most extreme proposals from earlier in the campaign.
That's exactly, I don't know about back away. They were not there. And
they weren't there.
They were not highlighted.
Right.
Remember, he did say, and it was as part of the negotiation, in order to get the world to recognize that there needs to be change in the trade relationships, you say the tools, and there are a lot of tools available to a president, and then you find a way that's better growth for everybody. Take Mexico. We want them to do really well. The best thing for the U.S. is to have Mexico grow faster.
Yeah.
They're not doing it. They need change